This podcast is being powered by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all, welcome back to my podcast, Mentally a Badass. My name is Justine and I have my good friend Mayrim right here, and we are going to chit chat about the mental health stigma in the Latin community. So I think this is a really good subject to talk about today. So she is from Puerto Rico, and then for me personally, I do have a Cuban background. So I think this would be a really good conversation to have and to just talk about how mental health is treated in other cultures. So I would love for you to talk about, let's actually talk about your experience with mental health when you were living in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much, for having me here today. I'm really excited. I've only been here 5 years, so I was totally born and raised in Puerto Rico until I was 22, and that's when I moved out here to Orlando. And being over there, honestly, mental health was not really a topic that was talked about, but I've always been very shy, and I was always I was really weird growing up. And it wasn't obviously until I reached adulthood that I was like, oh, okay, maybe what I was feeling was not normal. And no one ever brought up mental health, even though I saw it reflected in the adults around me. And in retrospect, I can say, my examples of adults, right, weren't doing all that well. So no wonder, it was being projected upon us. And I think that's something that just comes within how they were raised too, right?
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. 'Cause I do feel like our generation are the ones, like the millennial generation, are the ones who are actually trying to talk about mental health. Like when I was in high school and like my family, like above me, like no one really talked about like mental health like at all. And a lot of people think it's like not real. And I still know people today who are in the Latin community that just think it's fake and think it's like therapy is not real and therapy is for crazy people. And of course, I don't want to just say it's just the Latin community. Of course, obviously, every single community, there are people who don't believe in mental illness. But just for us being a part of that community, we are seeing that there's people who really think it's not real, and it's super upsetting that it's still happening here. And now we're in 2021, that people are still seeing therapy as for crazy people. Have you seen a therapist before?
Yeah, before when I was living in Puerto Rico, not at all. It wasn't even an option.
It wasn't an option. They didn't have it over there.
They did, I guess, but medical plans over there are really different. They're very expensive, and healthcare is reached differently to us. So unless you have a job, it is very, if not impossible.
That's insane. It's if you don't have a job, you shouldn't have any medical treatment, because I feel like medical stuff should be alright, in my opinion. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, no,
but I don't want to get political, but
yeah, Puerto Rico is an interesting place. And that was one of the, definitely something that was difficult. So unless you really worked or, had a parent who had a good job and knew, where to explore. So my parents didn't really know much about it. They didn't understand it. It wasn't something that they offered to me. Even though, like I said, I definitely saw mental health challenges from my adults around me, and we just didn't know what it was.
Talking about depression, anxiety. Yeah. And then people also don't understand depression and being sad are two completely different things. That's another thing too. So if people are down, people will see them as looking for attention, or they're just sad, you'll get over it and such. But it's people understand that it's literally a chemical imbalance in your brain. And are you out here alone?
Yes. So I do have some family. They live a little bit far off into the coast. This is a long story, but I did have family when I came here, but at this point, and it's kind of fizzled out kind of thing. So I have been.
So did they go back to Puerto Rico?
No, they still live here. We just don't have a lot of like communication. That's something that we're kind of working on, I guess. Which is part of the journey here. That relationship for sure has been part of the journey. But I did come here, with them, and then throughout the transition of the last few years, our relationship kind of reached end. Due to what I was going through, honestly. And recently we've kind of reconnected, but for the last couple of years, I pretty much did come here by myself. I don't really have any immediate family. My brothers in Puerto Rico, my parents, my grandparents, my cousins, everyone's.
Did you come here to work here okay?
Yeah, I did come here 5 years ago, right out of college, to do a college program. Disney, and I did finish my program, and then I got another job somewhere else, and then Disney just kind of rehired me, and then
that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I just didn't know when you what the reasoning to come here in Orlando. Yeah, me too. And wow, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so let's talk about when you knew that you needed to seek help. How old were you? What was your experience from there?
Yeah, so because growing up in Puerto Rico, even though growing up, I experienced so many mood swings. I was over emotional, overreactive. And I don't mean I overreacted. I mean most of my choices and reactions were just all emotional and reactive and explosive, and I was never okay with how I looked. I had a lot of self-esteem issues growing up, and I feel like that continued to transpire, and I was very much seeking acceptance from other people. That was the main way I got self-love was how others saw me, and I never really knew what that was, right? But it wasn't until I was 24 and I was already here in the United States, so I was pretty old when I was something's wrong, and I had to really reach a low point, which is something that's why I want to talk about this with you, because I don't want people to get to their 24 to be wow, I'm self-destructing, because I was about to end myself.
That's when it's most damaging, is when people don't realize it when they're younger, and then they don't take care of themselves, and then all of that, their illness turns into anger. Because what I truly believe in is that when you're really, really sad, if you have so much of that, it eventually does manifest into anger, and then that's when a lot of problems happen in society.
Yeah.
And do you agree that people don't understand that your mental health is pretty much the reason for most things that happen in this world? Because if, for example, let's say, I know it's getting a little bit off topic, but I do this in my podcast all the time, and but this is my theory. So for people who, let's say, grow up in areas where poor areas, or just areas where they can't be brought up a certain way, then a lot of people in those areas do have depression. If they know it or not, they have it. And then also manifests into anger, and then they have a behavior problem where they steal, or they do a bunch of crimes and such, and it all starts from the brain. But people always start from, okay, they're being bad, put them in jail, but people never look, why are they behaving that way? A lot of people never look at it like that. And I feel that's a huge problem. And another thing too, where all the shootings and the killings and the really disturbing killings, that's all mental health related, but of course people don't look at it like that.
Yeah.
So the system is so quick to put people in jail, but are not willing to fund more programs such to prevent that. And that's one big thing with our country, is that they are so big on punishing but not preventing. Okay, move back up. I don't want to do political again. I just have a lot to say, but it's true, and that's a big thing. I feel a lot of people don't talk about that. And then you said that you didn't get treatment until you're 24. I mean, for what I know, you're pretty well put together. From what I know from you, you're not out here banging stuff and throwing things against the wall. Or I don't know. I don't know.
No, for sure. I mean, I totally get where you're coming from, and I won't get political either, but I think that's definitely something that influence. And when we talk about at the start of the podcast, when we mentioned, how parenting comes from it. So I am more on the holistic of it at this point, now that I've kind of been doing it for a while. So I do feel like reparenting is a big thing in what you're talking about. I'm not saying that it's not coming from their upbringing, absolutely, because I did grow up in not the richest place. I grew up in like what you would call here like the suburbs and the mountains practically, and that's how Puerto Ricans kind of grow up, depending on where you're brought up, right? So I do agree that upbringing plays a role, but moving forward, it does kind of become our own responsibility to target where it's at. And some people don't know about these things, about reparenting and what it is to kind of break those patterns come from how you were raised.
I really think they should have like a parenting class. I mean, they already have parenting classes. I know like how to like raise your child. Like I never been to a parenting class, but I do know it's a thing that exists. But I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I can be wrong, but do they have like classes out there where parents are having a hard time with their children to like people who can like coach them into like helping them?
Well, when it comes about reparenting, it's more like being your own parent and taking care of yourself when your parents kind of didn't.
Yeah.
So it becomes a way for you to like heal those wounds that you got from your parents, and that's where the anger comes from and your insecurities and stuff like that. And that's something that I was experiencing, and I learned that topic really randomly one day through Instagram, and I was like, what is this? And it kind of has become the whole like sole purpose of how I look at things now, because I feel like that's like the root cause, which completely correlates to what you were saying, how upbringing and
all
money
about the upbringing,
and everything, like it all just goes around to that. Obviously not saying that medication and therapy and all that stuff doesn't help. It does, but these are things that if you look at it in a holistic kind of way, it definitely kind of comes from like as a whole circle of life.
Yeah, and then especially for people who, like, it's also mental illness is genetic as well. So, like, for me, like, my mom, she has, like, depression, anxiety. My grandmother, she had it really bad. Unfortunately, my grandmother didn't, like, really take it seriously until she was, like, 60, which because of her generation, unfortunately. And it was just horrible because of that, and then, like, it wasn't the norm around her generation. Like, I remember, like, growing up and people thinking she's just a cranky woman and, like, that she's not pleasant to be around. And at the time, like, I was a kid, I didn't know better. And then I think when I was like, she passed away when I was 15. I remember the time when I started actually talking to her, like really connecting with her, was when I knew I had an issue. And that's when my mom took me to therapy. And I think that is when I started, and I kind of like wish she was still alive just so like I can coach her. Like, not coach her, but like, like be someone who understands her. And also unfortunately she didn't like understand herself either. And just because I see it like firsthand, like someone who didn't get the help that she needed when she was younger. So when you're getting the help down the road, it's a lot harder, because at that time when you're like 70 and it's realizing you have a mental health problem, at that point your brain is so wired a different way at that point that it's better if you start out younger, then you have time to rewire your brain. And I mean, I'm sure you're able to rewire your brain when you're 70. I don't know. Who knows? I should probably go back to school. But I'm sure it's definitely a lot harder down the road than if you were to be younger and to catch that you have an issue down the road. So I'm just luckily I discovered it when I was 15, but I knew I had it when I was 15, but I was a reckless teenager and didn't care. But then when I was 17, that is when it's like, okay, yeah, I need to like get some help. And was like, taking medication and going to therapy. And now I'm in therapy, and I'm just always in therapy. And
same.
Yeah.
Totally same. And I think I like I said, I got it a little bit older in my time, but and it's never too late, just like we were saying. It's never too late. And
so someone who's listening, if you're like in your 60s, go for it.
30s, 40s, like
whatever you're in.
It's never too late, because I feel like you do get to an age where you're like, it's too lake. I can't change. This is what it is. You take what you can get.
It's a mindset. It's definitely a mindset.
And it's like, no, you can totally work on yourself. You can totally rewire your brain and you don't need to indulge in medication and stuff like that. If that's something that they use as a tactic too. It's like, oh no, medication.
Yes,
it's like
that's
you don't
another
have
thing
to do that.
Yeah, it's like it's better to just like talk to somebody and try to do things to help yourself than not doing anything at all. And there's also a huge thing is to realize you have a problem. That is the main thing. Yeah. If you say that you don't have a problem and it's not mental health, then like that's the issue, and like that's like your own worst enemy. And then it's what are we, 2021? Yeah, we're in 2021. And when do you know, like in history, because I'm having a history class right now, when do you think people like they had therapy was a thing? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm actually really curious. Like, when was therapy like the first time?
I don't know. I've never Googled that.
I never either, but let me Google it too.
I mean, seeing how messed up the topic is in the world,
they thought they were witches.
I feel like it might have just disappears throughout the ages and comes back and then it disappears.
It says here 9th century. Oh, who was the first therapist? Sigmund Freud, really?
I mean,
I mean, he is the father of psychology. Yeah, he is the father.
I don't know. Interesting.
It's saying stuff like the 1800s and stuff. I'm like,
yeah, I'm sure it kind of
maybe
came and went and like.
Oh, okay. So I think if anything, it was probably very like sinister related or something like that, because people would, for women who had like depression or mental health issues or whatever, like bipolar, schizophrenia, people would burn them to death because they would think they're like demons and such, and they'll call them witches.
Yeah,
the people who like were schizophrenic, they'll call them witches. And I mean, unfortunately, schizophrenia is still misunderstood. And oh my goodness, I would feel bad for people who have schizophrenia. Like that's like the worst mental illness, that like one of the worst mental illnesses to have.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine that. And yeah, people call them like witches, and I think people still, I don't think they call them witches now, but I still think it still doesn't, it's so frowned upon. Like I feel like a lot of them are homeless now, because I grew up by New York, and I would be walking on the street and I'll just see homeless people, and I notice they're always talking to themselves. They always have like their moments, and I just like, no one does anything because no one really knows what to do and really what's a safe thing to do. And I feel like a lot of people who have schizophrenia end up on the street, and it's so sad.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know much about that, but that sounds awful.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it's still a thing, you know, like medicine has advanced, air quotes, and I feel like it just goes to things that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think schizophrenia is probably the worst of the worst, because you're like hearing voices in your head.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And it literally like does happen though. Like for me, I'm not schizophrenic, I'm bipolar, and part of bipolar is once in a while, if I'm manic, I would hear voices. Not to the point where it's like it's scary or like really too concerning. Like I'll have moments where like I would think, I don't know, I'll hear like a whisper or something like that, but it's nothing serious. Like it's just like whatever. Like I just turn over, it's fine. And sometimes I'll like not hallucinate, but I'll just like, I think I'll see some corner of my eye, but I don't know if it's just normal and stuff. But my psychiatrist said that that's like a manic symptom, and I'm like, I didn't know that. So apparently, if I'm manic and that's like the highest, is that my brain can get to the point where it's like it's hearing voices and stuff, like not voice. Like I was just thinking more of like a whisper. Yeah.
That's kind of scary though.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly like rare that it happens to me. Like it's super rare. But it has happened in the past. But it's not like I'm hearing full out like voices, like people talking to me. Like it's just probably like a whisper thing, and I'm just like, and I literally go like this or something like that. But I'm on medication for it now, so
that's good.
It helps it. Like my meds are for that. Yeah, I don't think a lot of you even know that. I actually never even spoke about that with anybody.
Oops, got it out of you.
Nothing like talking about some in detail stuff with my mental health on a podcast. But hey, it's what I'm here for, right? And my mom's going to text me later, and she's going to be like, Justine, you hearing voices? What is this? She's going to text me later. She's going to be like,
oops. Oh, that's funny. Well, for me, it's never gotten to that, but I think it's very different more for me. I was diagnosed with general anxiety and depression, which later I kind of understood that I'm more of a functioning anxiety person, so I can do things, but I'm really worried about them all the time.
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable.
So, and a lot of times I do have like a lot of Latin friends, and usually my friends are old. Yeah. I just get along with older people.
Me too.
But most of my friends, I have a really good friends that are like 35 and over.
Mm-hmm.
So I do get that comment that's like, oh, it's okay, you're weak-minded or some, feeling that way says you're too emotional and you're weak-minded. And I don't feel like they say it in a
weak-minded. Can we talk about that? Because that is the point of this podcast. So people call you weak-minded?
I've gotten that comment before, and I know they don't say it in a way that's like trying to make me feel bad or just
I know.
But it's a general comment that you would get from like Latinos, because to them, like you were saying at the beginning, it doesn't exist. You just need to be more grateful. Appreciate more. You just can't stand. I've gotten this comment recently too. It's like, oh, you just can't stand hard things, and it's like that's not the point, and that's where I learned a little bit too about toxic positivity. And I think that's something that I get a lot from like older people and Latinos, because they're like, oh, you need to appreciate things more, and you're not grateful enough. And it's really not that I'm not appreciative. It's just that I'm overwhelmed by everything else, right? And it's really hard to explain that to people, because it's just it kind of just makes you discouraged, right? When you get that comment and when you're opening up about something, so it's like why even bother, talking about it if I'm just
and I completely get how it's like a toxic positivity is like they think they mean well, which I'm sure they, from what they're saying, I get what they're coming from with the whole gratitude and everything like that. But I think the issue is that people don't understand that what you're going through is medical. It's a thing, and that people don't realize that it's medical. It's emotional and medical, and it's literally chemicals in your freaking brain. And there's scans out there, that MRIs that do show that, and believe in science. It's a real thing. Do you have like mental illness in your family?
Yes. So I mean, I don't know if I should say this or not, but
say whatever you're comfortable
with. One of my
with.
parents was in the past, I think they were diagnosed, again, it's a topic that is not even discussed very much between my family in terms of how it was in the past as us as children, right? So I'm not particularly sure of the details, but I did see it reflected on my parents a little bit. And I see it in my adults all the time, like my aunt and uncles, like who are still in Puerto Rico. Love them all. They're all great people, right? But I can definitely see some behaviors that I'm just like,
right, low-key, same here, especially like being a psych major. Like I see it. And it's just like, I feel like I can see what other people can't see. The behaviors and such.
I'm not a psych major, so I'm an amateur.
I mean, I am too.
Coach, whatever the heck.
I'm not like certified or anything like that. I did go to school for psychology. So there are certain things I did learn. But also, I mean, you go through it yourself. And so you're learning. So this is all a learning experience as well. Yeah. And then like also just me spreading mental health awareness and doing what I do, it also like keeps me going with learning more about mental health. And then also just talking to people about their experiences is very helpful as well. So I mean, believe it or not, I'm learning a lot from you today.
Thank you.
It is. Like I really am. I am learning from you, and that's a great thing about podcasts, is that we can chat and talk about and learn things from other people that it's just actually super, I'm gonna say like not like wholesome or rewarding or whatever. Just like learning from other people. Like I've had other people on my podcast where
very humble.
Yeah, it is very humbling. Like I literally learned like from like the person I talked, my friend from Canada, my friend Christina. Like I learned so much from them. Just having like this conversation. It was like just super rewarding, having this and yeah, definitely very wholesome and all those words I can think of and such.
I mean, it's been a journey for sure. Being that so late in the game kind of thing.
Not really.
Yeah, but I didn't know what was going on. It was very pitiful time in my life. It really just kind of happened. I was in a relationship that was, I wouldn't say it was toxic, but it was, in retrospect, after I put that person down from the pedestal I had them in, right? I was like, okay, it wasn't the best situation for me at all. I was very much kind of emotionally abused. I was definitely kind of coerced into things that I didn't even want to do all the time, but I wanted to be okay with that person. So my self-esteem was like on the rocks because that person kind of was very infatuated with like other females, to say like that. So I was definitely in a position where I didn't know what was going on, but I had this person in this like pedestal that I was never going to be in. And prior to that, I hadn't been making the best choices. I was a 100% people pleaser. So if you're listening to this, I was 100% people pleaser. I've gotten a lot better now.
You really are. Yeah, no, you really are. The reason I see that is because when we like message each other, and like if you don't reply or something like that, I don't take offense to that. Like, I mean, I forget to reply to people too. It's just our lives are crazy.
Yeah.
But I remember you text me back and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry."
I do
like,
say sorry.
Like you had like a moment where you were like thought I was gonna like attack you or something like that. Like just the way you responded to me, I was like, I can definitely tell what kind of personality you have, and like for me, like I guess I wasn't like really mad about that. Like I was just like, oh, like I get it. Like for me, like if I were to get like annoyed and reply, it's like, okay, I'm a hypocrite because I do the exact same thing to people. Like I don't reply to people like half the time, and it's just I don't know. It's just we're busy people. Or sometimes I would start typing and then I just something would happen. I'll like exit out and stuff like that. So I did notice that. So I can see how you would see yourself as a people pleaser. And then also when you came in today and I offered you a glass of wine, I said, would you like red or white? You're like, anything you want. Remember that?
Yeah. I do that. And
you're my guest, whatever you want.
Even though I've gotten better, like in terms of I know how to place boundaries on things that do affect me, like things that obviously I don't want to do. I will be like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
But there are still things that I'm just like, well, sorry, or whatever you want. It's just kind of like a force of habit.
Yeah, if I say, let's go jump off a bridge, you're going to be like, okay.
See, if I don't want to do that, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Bungee jumping, maybe.
Oh, I do, because I already went skydiving. So
you went skydiving? Yeah, oh my God. I know some people now who have been skydiving. I want to do it, but I feel like I'm going to die as I jump off the
it's not that bad. It's not that bad. That's funny coming from a person with anxiety, right? But it was honestly the best thrill of my life.
That is awesome. I do like thrills. Like going on like the roller coaster and stuff like that. I actually really do like thrill. Since I brought up wine, what are we drinking? Red blend? I think I took
it was the red one, but I don't remember names. I have short-term memory.
The way you said that, like, the way you say, like, I don't remember names.
I don't remember names.
No, I'm pretty sure it was the red blend, and I think this one supports veterans.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
I did mention the veterans.
Here's my little commercial segment of this podcast. It's One Hope Wine. If you want to support veterans or drink the wine that we're drinking, I will leave the link in there. 10% of the funds 10% of the proceeds. Oh my goodness. I wish I had an editing thing I stutter a lot. 10% of the proceeds will go directly to that organization for this particular wine, but other bottles of wine go to different organizations. And then there's events that I do too. So yeah, if you didn't know what it was, cool. Anyway, done with that commercial segment of this podcast that was not asked for me to do, but I did it anyway.
Okay. It's your podcast. Do what you want.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna make this like, a thing, like drinking wine with my guests kind of thing. It's like you even said, like when you came over today, you said it's actually really smart that you give wine to your guests, loosen them up.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it like that. It does.
It's a good idea. I've seen it in other like TV shows and stuff.
Oh, really?
I just kind of, not with wine in particular, but they just kind of give them like a particular thing. And
like you have a shot of tequila.
And it's just a theme in their show moving forward. So it's like, have a cup of tea with so-and-so. So they're always drinking tea or stuff like that. Right?
That makes sense.
So it's a fun little theme that you will have going on now.
Yeah, I stole the theme from How to Money when they do beer. Like there's two guys that do beer and two girls who drink wine.
Yeah,
it just makes sense, and I just feel like it does loosen up, and we just like chit chat about mental health and such. So
it's a topic that's heavy, so you want to be relaxed.
No, 100%. I do want to like make this podcast as like, of course, I am definitely serious about mental health, but also just making it very natural, and just like something that people want to like listen to and such. Yeah, and so. Okay, so let's talk about where you are now and what you're doing, and just take it away, girl.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a few years of really dedicating myself to my mental health and working on my self-esteem and all that stuff. I think that's been my main focus. I've completely, focused on my holistic well-being, and working on myself, my body and soul. I've become kind of a hippie these days.
I love that.
No smoking, but
I wouldn't judge.
No, I don't do that, but I hear it's great, but I don't do it. But more of a holistic kind of way. I appreciate every situation that I've gotten in the last few years. It hasn't been the most pleasant few years of my life. A lot of the bad always stands out more than the good, but I have had some difficult situations that have really tested me, but everything has led me to triggers and things that I need to heal, and I've kind of focused on that. And I remember feeling the anxiety and the stress and the nervousness in my body a lot, and it would just lead me to these chaotic events where I was just all over the place, and I was like you can't see me, but I'm shaking right now.
Yeah,
so that's how I would be.
Literally like a silent thing. Well, you can't see it, and that's the whole thing. We can't see it, so it's not real.
Exactly, and that's how I would be all the time in the last few years. And even though 2020 was really awful for us, I did experience obviously negative reactions from 2020, but I took the time to really spend time on my own and really focus on my hobbies, take care of myself, and I really focused on the things that rose up. I was like, okay, so things are rising up. That means things that I still need to heal. And I kind of focus on that. I focus on taking care of my body, focus on being more calm, and it feels really good to wake up in the morning and even if I have those rushing thoughts that come at you in the morning, I can quickly, meditate, settle myself, and have a decent day, even if I still have those worries on me, because they don't go away immediately. And that's something that I do like sharing to people. People think that you meditate immediately, everything just becomes great and perfect. Or if you journal, everything's fine. No, you're rewiring your brain to react better to those things that rise upon you. And that's been my main goal, to feel more calm, feel more collected, and to really focus on the things that I would like to, bring into my life, and then be able to work on those slowly but surely, and not really put too much on my plate like I usually used to do, because I wanted things to happen now and this second, and I would just take the leap on everything, and I would be and then I would be I did that because I wanted to feel productive. I wanted to feel like I was getting things done. I wanted to feel like I was moving around all the time, but slowing down and surrendering to what things were right now were the key components into me being able to just be okay, so I don't feel okay. I'm going through whatever emotions I have right now, but everything is temporary, and I can focus and be mindful, which has been my biggest struggle. And I was able to focus on, my self-esteem, because I hated how I looked. I really did not like myself at all. And I've been able to really...
By the way, y'all, she's so pretty. Just
no, I'm
you
okay.
Can't see her. You can't see her, but she's really pretty.
Thank you. I can say thank you. I used to not be able to say thank you. I would be like, no, why?
Really?
I look like an ogre.
Oh.
So I would, I would always put myself down rather than just be like, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And now I can say thank you.
It's a self-esteem thing.
Yeah, I definitely do have a self-deprecating thing, and that's where the people-pleasing comes from, being whatever you want. There's things that obviously, like I said, I have my boundaries.
Yeah.
And which is something that I didn't know how to do before, but I definitely do still feel like I do have that self-deprecating attitude, and that's just me being me, and I've accepted those parts of me too, because I will never be a fully light monster. I will never be fully perfect. I will never be over what I've been through, because I've experienced a certain, emotional abuse and trauma and things that will always kind of be there.
I feel like that's where it stems from, because if you're emotionally abused, that you're automatically being a people pleaser because you're fearing that it's going to happen to you again.
And you hear the things that they told you, right, over and over again, no matter what. And I know that I will always kind of have that in the back of my mind, but I can see it now. I can, be like, oh, okay, this is coming from me. This is not the other person's doing. I don't project it on someone else. I am able to say sorry to other people, take accountability for what I've done. And then I keep striving to be a better friend, a better daughter. I've improved so much, which is why I've been single for so long, because I wanted to really be at a better stage in my own life before I really just found the right person. I've tried to date, and it just hasn't really worked out. And I know why it hasn't, because, I wasn't really fully in the best place, but I've been able to use those triggers in those relationships to better heal and prepare myself for,
I really like how you said that, because I feel like the same way, literally. Like, I mean, I was in a relationship recently, and honestly, I'm a lot happier now, because being in a relationship is a lot of work. It is. And my aspirations of what I want to do with my life takes a lot of work of what I want to do to get somewhere, to make a living out of it. It's not easy. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. So and also have my own issues. So, yeah, I mean, I've been in a couple of relationships since I, started my journey with YouTube and life and just like on social media. And all those relationships were like, no. They all just, I mean, I wouldn't want to, I just feel like I'm just meant to be single. Like, not forever, obviously. Like, eventually down the road, I would like to have a husband and, have kids and, keep the generation, like, keep it going. Right now, all I want is a dog.
Yeah.
I want a dog.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I have a cat, and he's actually registered as my emotionally support animal.
Yeah, I think when I get a dog, I'm going to get him as emotional support animal.
I love him. Benito is his name, by the way.
Wait, what is it?
Benito.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it.
Bad Bunny's real name, if you know who Bad Bunny is.
Yeah. I'm going to name my dog Jose.
I love that.
I had a random dream that I just had a dog named Jose, and it felt like I had so much emotion with that dog. It was super interesting.
I mean, I believe
it was calling
and
me.
It's funny that you say that, because it's a thing that I do whenever I'm like get really anxious, or I'm like, I know that I'm overextending my thoughts. I'm just like, I say his name a couple times. It actually calms me down.
Really?
Yeah, it actually kind of brings me back to like my body, and I'm just like, okay, we're good, we're Gucci, we're back. And he's always usually there with me because I'm home all the time, and I live by myself. So he's usually.
I don't know how you do that, girl. I would lose my mind if I was home alone all the time. I used to want to live alone, but then, like, when the pandemic happened and both my roommates were, like, in their home areas, how you like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I think I used to live with roommates my whole time. That's not here, obviously, but then I didn't really like my own company. That's where the problem lied, that I always relied on someone else. And being alone has been, like, the most, helpful thing in terms of the healing process, because I've been able to enjoy my own company again and like do things for me and just on my own and just have my own space, my own stuff, and just do whatever I want when I want to. So it did help do that. Obviously, sometimes you're like, oh, I want some company, but overall,
everyone's different. So
I'm pretty introverted, so I don't mind being alone with my cat. I'm a crazy cat lady.
I think this is like the first time we hung out.
This is true.
This is literally like, we always try to hang out, like, and we just never do. I don't know. We're really weird like that.
Well, now we know we live like down the road.
I know. We literally live down the road from each other. We didn't even know that.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was actually going to live here in this complex.
Really? Imagine you did live here in this complex.
But
I would have been like knocking on your door, like, as we're texting. I'd be like, oh, you live here? And I just walked you. Like,
I mean, you're like 5 minutes away. So, if you really did want to. I live by myself, so we don't have to be worried about COVID or anything like that, because it's just me.
Yeah.
My cat.
Oh, actually, I wouldn't be able to come over because you're a cat. I'm allergic.
Oh, everyone's allergic to cats.
I know. I wish I wasn't, because I do like cats. It's like, I love cats. They're so cute, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, I have a really good pool anyway.
You have a cool pool? That's nice. Is it open? Because mine's not open.
It is open.
Mine's like barely open.
Yeah, they did open.
Also, it's kind of cold right now.
True.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Darn it. Yeah, because I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll totally come over, but also I can't because you have a cat. That's the thing.
Have a patio area.
Yeah, that's true. I can always take allergy meds on the way.
They do have like this like bar areas and stuff, like you can like sit there.
Okay.
I mean, my apartment's usually not a big complex, not very crowded, so
and of course you're vice versa. When there's like, you literally came over today and I had like wine all over the place. I was like, hi, welcome to my world. It's just like wine everywhere. It's really funny. Oh wow, yeah, we are podcasting right now.
Totally, but to finish up the thought process that we started with, definitely it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. I definitely compare myself to a few years and how my body was reacting, like I was saying, how emotionally like reactive I was at the time, and I do feel a lot more calmer. I spent the pandemic really fine. Obviously, there were days where I like, oh, I want to hang out with my friends, and I'm alone at home and stuff, but I did so many things. I discovered so many things about myself. It was like the most like healing time for me. And I just like, I love hanging out with myself. I love just like chilling.
Me too.
And it just, I feel really good. Like I feel good, even if I am in a crossroads in my life right now where I'm figuring out where I want to go now. Because my whole mind and my whole map of life has changed. I feel okay with myself, and I feel very acceptance of who I am and where the kind of person I am and everything. And I think that is a great accomplishment. It may not be as good as getting married or having a house or anything that's celebrated in the mainstream.
That's another whole thing, is that like we have to like the whole like the typical life of having like, you know, going to college, getting a job, getting married, having a kid. Like that's what everybody knows, but you and I both know we are not in that route right now.
Yeah, no. I mean, if it happened, it happened, but it's not something that I'm here like.
It's not like, okay, this is my goal. Yeah. I'm going to get a guy by this time and have a kid.
I think it's a good point that you raised that. I just want to go on a quick tangent here. But it's important that, you know, we don't compare ourselves to other people. I do that a lot. I used to do that all the time, and that's like a killer. Because everyone is in their own place. Everyone has their own priorities. Everyone values things that you don't value, but then you will feel the pressure, you know, you want to. I know that I do, because growing up Latina, you're born and raised to have a job, get married, have kids, blah, blah.
Yes.
And
100%.
I do want that, absolutely, but it's not something that has happened for me yet. And sometimes I look at my friends and stuff, I'm just like, wow, I'm just lagging behind, right?
Right? Oh my gosh, that should be a whole different another episode.
Yeah, I can go on for hours about that. But
maybe I'll have you coming back another episode. We could talk chit-chat about that.
But it's important to do that, because I know for me, once I surrendered to where my life is now, I was able to start really focusing on what I did want to do without the. And
your life's pretty awesome. Like pretty awesome. Like it's very different, and a lot of people. I didn't realize, but a lot of people apparently in my family think what I'm doing is cool.
Yeah, I get that all the time. My
mom told me that.
Like, you're living by yourself, you pay your own rent, you have your own things, and you know you have ideas of what you want to do. And I'm just like, no, they put it that way.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is that when I was home for Christmas with my mom, she told me that apparently my family members thinks that like it's cool what I did. Like just kind of like I was like the only one in the family who just picked up everything and went and moved to another state by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Same. Yeah, I moved out here by myself. I was 20.
And I just think I didn't see how big it was, because I have friends who just do it too. So in my mind, it's like the norm. So when my mom tells me that apparently people in the family are thinking that I'm so like courageous and stuff, I'm like, really? I did not know that. I just thought what I was doing was the norm. But apparently it's not.
Yeah. I feel the same way. For me, it's kind of the opposite. People usually stay home a lot for Latinos and stuff like that. So for me, obviously, it was taking a leap.
Definitely, 100%.
You never know, you know, you compare yourself to others anyway, even if you feel like but I did this and this courageous, but then you see other people, but they have boyfriends. They're, you know, they're in the career path. They know what they want to do, and you're still kind of here,
do they really know what they want to do?
I mean, they pretend they do, right? You don't know.
They pretend that they do.
And that's why I mean, that comparing yourself is just useless, because you don't know what that other person really is going through. You don't know what it really, the hurdles they have to go through to get there. And even if they never struggled a day in their life, you know, in retrospect, do you want what they have? I
mean, for me, like, for the people who live that life where it's like, you go to college, get a job, get married, I don't really envy those people, to be completely honest with you. The people that I envy, how bad this is gonna sound, I envy, like, the big influencers.
Yeah, because, I can understand that.
Yeah, because, like, where I'm aspiring to be, and, like, for example, like, these TikTokers who are so big right now, I'm just like, what am I doing wrong?
I know, like, those people that get famous from just one video, and it just happens for them. I totally get it. I don't really care about being an influencer, so unfortunately, I don't know anything about that, and I can't give you any tips.
Thing. I'm going to talk about, by the way, on a different podcast. I have a influencer friend that we're going to talk about that in a future episode. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
It's a whole other thing about mental health.
To that, because I can understand how it could be totally draining. I share content, but it's really just to raise awareness about things. I don't necessarily think I'll ever be famous, because I don't know. I don't think I have the personality to be an influencer. Famous on this podcast.
Oh
my God. I don't think I have the personality to be an influencer, although I do like talking. So I apologize, because one of my secret goals is to be a motivational speaker. So
secret. It's not secret anymore.
It's secret.
Let's have the mic right here.
But it's like one of those things that I want to do. That's why I talk so much. I run out a lot better.
I feel like you'd be really good at it. I think you should do it. I'm rooting you on. I support.
Thank you. But I don't think I have the personality to be like an influencer or anything like that. And I feel like it's just some people just really...
It's not really made for everybody. It's just honestly, when I first started YouTube, I wasn't like, I'm gonna be an influencer. Like, I was like, oh, fun YouTube videos. Yeah. Like, now influencer's a career now.
Now that you say that, I hate when influencers are like, oh, if you do it for fun, you usually are gonna go viral. Like, if you do it for planning, if you plan it, then it's just not gonna happen for you, you know? So I've heard some of them say that, and I'm just like, it really is just not how it works.
It's honestly, it doesn't. Like, I don't like when people are saying, oh, just be yourself. Like, the most generic... Okay, that's going to be a different podcast. But that's my little... I'm going to go on about that.
It just goes with the topic of comparing yourself, because people are always going to, boast themselves on social media. Now, no people are going to talk about their struggles or their hard times on social media.
Me, I'm a mess especially on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have Twitter anymore because, that. But... I like to talk about my hurdles on my Instagram a lot and just kind of share, today I'm feeling bad, but I'm listening to Bad Bunny, and that's just giving me a little bit of serotonin I need to get through it.
Love serotonin. I'm trying to make a playlist right now for serotonin on Spotify.
Oh, I got
serotonin fix.
Oh, I got Bad Bunny for you. But social media is just a place, for fun, but don't take it so seriously where you feel like, oh, I need to be like these models or these people. Or
I try my best to not do that. It's just so hard. But
not just you, but your listeners.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, so this podcast, we definitely are probably hitting like over an hour at this point.
I apologize.
No, I'm done. Girl, you're good. We got a lot of good recording content and good stuff here. But yeah, we're gonna close it out here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
If you want, want me to put your like social media stuff in the bio if you want people to follow or no?
Sure.
Whatever you want. If you want the people to follow you.
I only have Instagram, so you can follow me on it's Mayrim, Mayrim, and an X at the end. And I have all kinds of Spanish content there, and I just
weren't you making like a series?
I was honestly. It's been complicated because I am working a couple of jobs and I do a lot of volunteering.
You were a couple of jobs?
I have my regular job, and then I've been doing
that would be part-time. An off-podcast conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I've been doing like a lot of like volunteer work. I have school. I am going to school again for a few months, and I just do a lot of like self-healing circles. I have a lot of group therapies and stuff like that I attend to. So I do a lot of like mental health stuff on the side that I'm always constantly doing. I have a lot of like self-coaching classes that I practice, and since I want to be a motivational speaker, I gotta
oh my god, know what you just said.
But if anytime, I always encourage everyone that views my stuff, and I've got a lot of messages from people saying that they went through therapy and stuff like that because they heard me talking about it.
Yeah, I remember when you reached out to me, I felt really nice. You thought I was cool.
Yes. Yeah, I remember I said I did that because a lot of people were, not being as supportive about you in the environment that we were, and I just was like,
I didn't know that.
Well,
okay,
I'm sharing that because I was like, I really put them down. I was like, you shouldn't be talking. Like, she's doing a good job. Like, she's working hard. Like, you should support her. And I was like, I want to reach out to her because I do view all your videos and I do like them and stuff if I can. So when I heard like those negative comments, I was like, you don't know what she like is going through. You don't know what she's doing stuff, because she wants to, put herself out there. So like, stop being, negative. So that's when I was like, I want to reach out to her and like keep in contact and like keep up with what she's doing, because I feel like people like to talk about other people all the time, especially in the environment that you are. And I don't like that, and I will never like sit there and
I've had people tell me that people would talk crap at me at work, and it's fine.
Yeah,
I know what I'm doing is it's definitely not the norm, I guess. Like, I do put myself out there and talk about my issues, and I definitely know it's not. Like, a lot of people like to keep to themselves, so I'm not shocked. You're not the first person to tell me that people were talking crap at me.
I still went in and watched the video and give it a like, and even if if we weren't like close friends and like that, I still was like, well, I just support what you're doing because I think it's it's what you want to do, and the same way that I do my crap, I would like people to support whatever I do. So just
yeah. Okay, so we're going to end the podcast here. Thank you guys for listening. I post every single Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I'm going to end it here, and I hope you guys have a great day.